Imagine stepping into a time machine that takes you straight back to the 1960s. No towering skyscrapers, no bustling highways, no smartphones buzzing in pockets. Just a slower, simpler life. Across Australia, there are towns that have resisted the rush of modernization. Their streets, cafes, cinemas, and homes still carry the charm of decades past. Walking through them, it feels like the world outside has paused, leaving a glimpse of a time long gone. In Victoria's rolling hills, a town famed for its natural springs feels like a living vintage magazine. Its main street, lined with antique shops and quaint cafes, preserves the mid-20th century charm. Locals greet each other warmly, old cars occasionally rumble along the streets, and heritage buildings tell stories of gold rush days that shaped the region. The town's economy shifted toward tourism and wellness, which ironically helped freeze its streets in a retro state, allowing visitors to walk through history while enjoying cafes that look as if they were designed in the 1960s. Along the banks of the Murray River, another riverside town keeps the past alive in its very rhythm. Paddle steamers glide silently across the water, and the historic wharf area remains almost untouched. Timber buildings, an old post office, and a small cinema evoke nostalgia for anyone who grew up in the 60s. The town embraces its history through community events, from river regattas to vintage fairs. Even small details like cafes still using classic cash registers and rotary phones enhance the feeling that time has slowed down here. In Western Australia, on the outskirts of a major city, the oldest inland town offers streets lined with cobblestones, classic storefronts, and colonial houses that seem lifted from a black and white photograph. Founded in the early 19th century, this town played a crucial role in farming and gold trade, yet modern development largely bypassed its town center. Today, antique shops, local bakeries, and vintage car shows allow both residents and visitors to experience a lifestyle reminiscent of half a century ago. Moving to New South Wales, there is a town whose heritage buildings have resisted the hands of modernity. Cafes, pubs, and general stores preserve old signage and wooden facades, giving the streets a nostalgic authenticity. The town has remained largely untouched because of strict heritage regulations, and its residents celebrate local festivals, markets, and fairs with the same spirit as people did decades ago, providing a living link to the 1960s way of life. Back in Victoria, a former gold mining town has transformed into a haven for book lovers and history enthusiasts. Walking down its streets, one cannot help but notice the vintage shops, old town halls, and retro pubs that transport visitors to the mid-20th century. The gold rush brought prosperity in the 1850s, but as mining declined, modernization slowed. Today, festivals, markets, and local gatherings preserve a sense of nostalgia, making it feel as if the town has been gently suspended in time. Throughout these towns, there is a common thread, an effortless preservation of culture, architecture, and lifestyle. The streets are quieter, conversations slower, and community life more intimate. Cafes are filled with retro furniture, bakeries still bake in the traditional way, and cinemas screen films in old-fashioned theaters where velvet curtains and wooden floors add to the charm. In every corner, the feeling of another era lingers, a reminder that not all Australia has been swept up by modernity. Visiting these towns is like stepping into a living museum. Every alleyway, shopfront, and park tells a story of resilience, heritage, and the simple pleasures of a slower life. They offer a window into a world where time moves differently, where daily life is tangible, personal, and rich with history. For travelers and history enthusiasts, experiencing these towns is more than nostalgia. It is a journey into the heart of Australia's past, where the 1960s never really ended. Walking further across Australia, there are towns where time seems to have slowed even more, preserving the charm and simplicity of decades past. These towns are not just collections of old buildings, they are living communities where traditions, stories, and everyday life echo the 1960s in a way few modern places can replicate. In the heart of New South Wales lies a town that flourished during the gold rush, but resisted the rush of modernization that swept across the continent. Its streets are lined with sandstone buildings, vintage signage, and local shops that have maintained their old-world facades. Cafes serve coffee in classic ceramic mugs, and the local pub has barely changed since it opened decades ago. Residents take pride in hosting festivals and markets reminiscent of mid-20th century celebrations, keeping the town's history alive while welcoming visitors to experience a slice of nostalgia. In Queensland, a quiet coastal town reveals the charm of retro beach life. Wooden boardwalks, small family-run stores, and pastel-painted beach cottages evoke images of summer holidays in the 1960s. Surfboards lean casually against fences, and local cafes retain the menus and decor of decades past. Visitors strolling along the shore feel transported into a simpler, more carefree era, where community life was personal and the pace of life unhurried. Further west, a town in South Australia built around wheat and farming preserves the mid-century feel in every detail. Grain silos stand as historical markers, while small bakeries, local diners, and town halls appear untouched by the modern aesthetic. The streets echo with the laughter of school children walking to class and neighbors greeting each other warmly, the kind of everyday interactions that feel rare in today's fast-paced cities. Here, the rhythm of life mirrors the 1960s, making it a living museum of heritage and lifestyle. Victoria, again, offers another hidden gem, a town that emerged during the timber and mining era and never fully industrialized. Its wooden cottages, old cinema, and Main Street cafes retain the architecture and design of the 1960s. Streetlights, shop signs, and even telephone booths give the impression that modern life has bypassed this corner of the country. Local families continue traditional fairs, book readings, and vintage car exhibitions, keeping both the culture and spirit of the town intact. In Tasmania, a small town surrounded by rolling hills and forests offers a nostalgic retreat. Its main street has retained its mid-century charm, with small hardware stores, ice cream parlors, and bakeries that appear frozen in time. Residents cherish the town's history and actively maintain heritage buildings and gardens. Visitors often comment that walking through this town is like stepping into a storybook, where every detail, from the cobblestone paths to the vintage signage, evokes the past. Throughout these towns, it becomes clear that what makes them unique is not just the architecture, but the lifestyle. People shop in small stores, greet each other by name, and participate in community activities that have existed for decades. There's a rhythm to daily life that feels slower, deliberate, and personal. Cafes serve food and drinks as they did 50 or 60 years ago. Local cinemas show films on classic projectors, and the sound of children playing in the streets is accompanied by the gentle hum of vintage cars. What is remarkable is how these towns have balanced preservation with life. They're not frozen museums. People live, work, and celebrate there. Heritage laws, community pride, and a deliberate resistance to overdevelopment have helped retain the character of the 1960s. Walking through these streets, one experiences history not a series of facts, but as a tangible, living, breathing reality. These towns remind us of a time when life moved at a slower pace, where relationships were personal and communities were tightly knit. They showcase a side of Australia rarely seen in glossy modern cityscapes, a side where history, lifestyle, and culture coexist naturally. Visitors leave not just with photographs, but with a feeling of connection to the past, a sense of what life might have been like decades ago. Even in the smallest details, the design of a shop window, the signage of a diner, the rhythm of a local festival, the 1960s linger. These towns are not relics, they are celebrations of endurance, memory, and identity. For anyone looking to experience the charm of old Australia, these communities offer an unparalleled window into the past. Australia's towns frozen in time are more than historical curiosities. They are reminders that modernity is not the only path forward. Through their preservation, they teach us about community, continuity, and the beauty of living history. Stepping into one of these towns is stepping into a story of resilience, nostalgia, and the enduring spirit of everyday life. In the end, the magic of these towns lies not in their monuments or museums, but in their streets, homes, and lives. They remind us that history is not just recorded in books, it is experienced, felt, and lived. And in Australia, some places continue to live the 1960s every single day, offering a rare, beautiful, and immersive escape into the past.